Hey guys, this is Viper Strike here, and today we are here in episode 11 of of my baseball inspired series, Le Milleur de Montreal, which is Montreal's finest, translated from French. Well, if that title means anything, we're going to be heading to Montreal, Quebec today. And I know a lot of you have been asking, Viper, why are we heading to Montreal today? Well, the answer is because Montreal used to be the home of the Montreal Expos. And with all the rumors surrounding that Montreal could eventually return back to Major League Baseball, why not cover it? I think it would be a really nice thing to cover. So, it's great to be here today, and we only have 2 days away from the next upcoming sim update, and it cannot come fast enough, I gotta say. So let me look over to the chat. Arctic Turn is here. Welcome. It's good to see you again, Arctic Turn. Hopefully things go well with you. And Kuzaki Flyer. Nice to see you again. And Stairway to Bacon. Welcome all in the chat so far. Hopefully everything goes well for you all today. So, and hello there, Goblin Zeus. Good to see you, man. You're gonna be landing Oshkosh for a bit. And I learned quite a bit on Murph's stream Friday. That was quite a fun stream. It was a really fun stream. And I got to take the Savage Cub over to Oshkosh. It was quite fun to do it. I think it was fun as well. So, I can't see anyone. Server or something. Sometimes the servers can act up. There, Kazaki. So, on my nav map today, we will be heading to Montreal from Toronto. We'll be taking a quick flight from Toronto to Mountain View, will be the first leg. Then from Mountain View, we will pay a visit to the capital of Canada itself, Ottawa. And then for the third and final leg, we will be flying to Montreal, St. Hubert, and we'll be paying a visit to the city of Montreal itself. So that's kind of the flight plan. Pretty simple. Fly around Lake Ontario, and we might even see a bit of the St. Lawrence River as well. So it's quite a simple and fun flight plan. So I think it'll be quite fun. So my question is, for this really long journey, 300 nautical miles, what plane should I take? Well, I brought in this plane. This is a Beechcraft King Air 350i. Now this actually comes in the default edition of Microsoft Flight Simulator. And this is a really good, it's one of the 2 aircraft that can be great for traveling many passengers around as a business turboprop plane, the other one being the TBM. This is great. It has a range of almost 1,700 nautical miles. It can go up to 244 knots as its true airspeed. So this is the perfect business for a business guy who wants to fly from general aviation airports that doesn't want a business jet. As you can see here, in the interior of the King Air, you can see all these seats as well. I mean, you can put a whole small office space, take a few passengers as well for your business trip. And the cockpit looks kind of nice too. Overall, it's a really interesting and fun plane with its 2 massive turboprop engines. Such an incredible plane to fly. So, now to get this thing started, this is going to be the most complicated plane I have to start yet. So before I start the engine, I need to check the parking brake for a bit. Thankfully, it's already been set. The power levers are idle. It should stay that way. Now the prop RPM, I need to set them to max. Yes, this thing has 2 props, so they need to be set individually. Then they need to pull in the condition levers, which is the mixture. Pull those. Next, we turn on the battery switch. That's set. It's quite an interesting thing as well. Once we turn that on, we need to turn on the right ignition. We set the right engine starter on. We turn on the right generator. And we do the same procedure all over. Where are we starting from? Well, we're starting from, actually, let me pull my nav map. We need to be starting from Toronto Centers, and that is Charlie CYTZ at Toronto City Center. That's where we're going to be spawning from there. And that's it. And that's how I got the engine started. So the engines are started. Gotta turn on the avionics master switch, which is right here. Avionics is on. Now all the lights. Quite a few lights. So we gotta turn on our taxi lights. Our nav lights. We're gonna turn on. I don't think we'll turn on the logo lights. And we release the parking brake, which is this. So there you go. Careful not to hit me. However, I'm not going to go super fast with this thing. It's just for FYI. He did, yeah. So sometimes the workers are in the way. What's really cool about this plane, though, it also has reverse thrusters and turboprop. So if you want to stop pretty quickly, you can definitely do that here. So I'm going to need to reset my altitude. According to my nav map, my altitude should be at 2,500 feet. This should be, so it's got the altitude. Check the barometer. Now I need to set the altitude to 2,500 feet. That's impressive. So, just waiting for other people to come in the runway. But yeah, this is a really, really nice airport. I like the Toronto City Center. It's absolutely beautiful. Definitely one of the little scenic airport locations in the SEM so far, that I've been to so far. So definitely a very, very nice place to be around. Hydrate, yes. Don't forget to hydrate. Kozaki's in the Spitfire of all things. That's a cool plane to take. I thought Kozaki fire only for the Goose. I know. The Goose is such a cool plane, but I don't think the Goose can keep up with the Baron, with the King Air. So I'm probably gonna go ahead and take off and get this started. So I'm gonna push the throttle all the way to the max. I'm gonna lower the flaps. I know. And we gotta take this in the air. I gotta change my VOR stuff, GPS. $80. Now we're pressing 90. 100. 100. And we are off. Nav mode, VNav, and then we'll get to the flight level. As well, we're gonna get to 1,500 feet for the first leg. There's the city of Toronto as we lead past. Once we get around 50, I'm going to lower the speed a bit, so we can get to a more notable cruise speed. We're not going to go super fast. I want to take a bit of a scenic tour for a bit. I also got to turn on the yaw damper as well. And then for the pilot heat. There's 2 pilot heats, so it wants me to turn those on. I'm going to lower it to 40% power. It'll still be fast enough to go through which the place we're going to go. So we're flying over Lake Ontario, one of the 5 Great Lakes. So definitely a very nice scenic environment here. definitely a very nice. No worries, dear Stairway to Bacon. You're perfectly fine. So, guys, I want to do something a bit special for today. So, we actually got some important stuff to deal with here today. So, there's been a couple of major news for Major League Baseball this year. I wanted to actually bring some news. So, there's quite a few major news I do want to bring to the thing. The first major news for this season for Major League Baseball. I wonder if it's. So there's the first major news being that 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 Patrick Sandoval nearly hit a no-hitter. He was only 2 outs shy of a no-hitter last night. Fernando Tatis Jr. actually makes 30 home runs this past season, making Fernando Tatis one of the youngest players to reach 30 home runs in a season. The fewest games reached by any player his age or younger. And he's now the youngest Padre to hit 30 home runs. But the major news that I do want to cover is the fact we actually got a name change. Go Yanks, yeah. We finally got the situation for the name change. If some of you were around when I did the Cleveland stream, well, one of the things I said is, what nickname did the Cleveland Indians are going to pick for next season? Because we know they're going to change the name. Well, we finally got an answer. That being the Cleveland Guardians. So they actually named it after the Hope Memorial Bridge in Cleveland. And apparently, it's modeled after the Greek Art Deco sculptures on the bridge. There's 8 of them. And the name came up after 40,000 fans were surveyed and 140 hours of personnel interviews. They actually picked the Gardens to be the best fit. Thankfully, they're not changing too much of the team colors. They're still red, white, and blue. They're still doing it, but I'm glad they managed to find a way to actually get a new name, and I'm glad they did a good job picking the name. I think the new name fits really well for Cleveland. So overall, I think it's a very good name for the city as well. So personally, I think it's a fantastic thing as well. So I'm just happy that that Cleveland baseball will finally get a new name, and finally that all that kind of dies down. It's good that we finally got a new name for the team. Now we don't have to hear about it anymore. And hoping that the Washington football team in DC finally gets a new name as well. That city's been needing a new nickname for a long time. I mean, isn't that cool? They got. Are the Braves next? That's a good question. The Braves are considered for it, so I think the Braves could get a name change. But I think the team that's going to change next for baseball is going to be actually in the minor leagues. The Indianapolis Indians are probably going to do a name change next. Knowing minor league teams, I would say that they probably could rename the Indianapolis team to be something more. It'd be like Cleveland Guardians in the sense of connected to the city of Indy. Maybe something with car racing or something would be a really good nickname for Indianapolis. Like an IndyCar or NASCAR or something theme would be amazing for Indianapolis. It would be something that the brand could recognize. But there's also plenty of opposition because the Indians' name in Indianapolis has been around the city for over 100 years. So it's the same thing for Cleveland as well. Like, they know that name for over 100 years. So it's going to take the brand a bit of a while to readjust, but I'm confident in Cleveland. I think they'll find a way. I mean, if they win a World Series or two, I mean, the name change, I think it'll stick. So I think that's kind of how I view of it. But yeah, that's a pretty big change if you ask me. Like, it's not every day team nicknames. I know the last time a major league team was nicknamed was the Rays. Originally, the Rays were the Devil Rays, but they changed their name back in '08 to be the Rays. And I mean, the Rays have been one of the most successful teams in baseball over the past 12 seasons since 2008. So I'm hoping that this good luck might be for the Cleveland baseball team. They probably need it. So how does the Guardians relate to Cleveland? Well, it is actually from the Hope Memorial Bridge. Let me... The Guardians of Traffic. Let me show this, Kazaki. This is one of the 8 Guardian sculptures on the Hope Memorial Bridge. So this is why they picked Guardians. Because that's where Jacobs Field leads to, is from Hope Memorial Bridge. Ah, good afternoon, Splasher6. Hey, it's good to see you again. So I was with you yesterday, and we did the FPS test in Chicago with his stream. Let me give him a shout out to Splasher. Splasher6, giving you a shout out. You're a really awesome content creator, and thank you for being there. Out of Loki, yeah, but those things were actually built, and it's a very popular photo spot in Cleveland. But hey, I mean, at least it. At least it tied into the city of Cleveland. They could have picked some other names, but I'm glad they picked the name. I think it's a great nickname for the team. They could have picked much worse. Hello there, Martel. Good to see you. Good to see you, Martel. Great to see you here. You're more than welcome to drop by there, Splasher6. So, I got a question. So, where are you flying to on this leg of your dad's journey in World War II? I'm just kind of curious. From Reykjavik to Nuts Corner, Ireland. Ah, nice. That's wonderful. I know Iceland has really improved a lot since the Nordics World Update, and it looks really, really good. Such a beautiful place to fly over. Also, in addition to this as well, other Major League news is that the Rays actually have acquired slugger Nelson Cruz from the Minnesota Twins in a 4-player deal. So a very solid slugger is finally going to the Rays. So he could be the potential the final piece for the Rays team as well. And then also the Rays also trade Rich Hill to the Mets. And Rich Hill was very good this year for the Rays, but so I'm hoping that these trades work out for the Rays, because I know the Rays don't have the most payroll. So any bit of trade can work out for the team. As well. So guys, yesterday was quite crazy on Allison's stream. So Allison Johnson, let me give her a mention. So Allison Johnson yesterday did an absolutely crazy flight, and it was a blast for flights. So she's doing her 1929 she's doing a recreation of the 1929 Amy Johnson flight from Croydon to Australia, and we just did her first leg yesterday from Croydon to Vienna, and that took me around 6 hours and 45 minutes in a Savage Cub. Yes, I was probably the only person to not take the Stearman. Everyone else took the Stearman, but I took the Savage Cub, and I managed to not only keep up with the Stearmans, I actually probably went past more than a few Stearmans. So that was kind of fun, and not to mention the Thunderflies were amazing. Jefferson knocked it out of the park with the airport, be the man, myth, and legend he is. It was just an awesome stream, and I can't wait to do more of them. Splasher6 says, that's interesting to learn where they got the name from. Yep, and they also asked 40,000 people, fans, and it took about 140 plus hours to figure out the nickname. But hey, but I'm just happy they got this whole name thing fixed and dealt with. So now that's one less thing the newly Cleveland Guardians have to worry about. So that's kind of good to talk about. So, and then in terms of standings as of now, I want to do a weekly thing, so update each week. As of now, the Boston Red Sox and the Rays are tied first in the American League East, followed by the New York Yankees, Toronto Blue Jays, and the Baltimore Orioles and that's your AL East standings. Poor Baltimore are 26 games back, but the Yankees and Blue Jays still are incredibly competitive in that East division. The White Sox still dominate the American League Central with Cleveland, Detroit, Kansas City, and Minnesota. The American League West, the Astros, or should we call Trastros, are the leaders of the AL West, but Oakland can still make a push. The NL East is been dominated by the New York Mets, with players like Pete Alonso, Jacob deGrom, taking care of Francisco Lindor. The NL Central is dominated by Christian Yelich and the Milwaukee Brewers, with Cincinnati, St. Louis, Chicago, and Pittsburgh. And finally, the National League West, probably the most competitive division in the league, is you have to deal with the Giants, Dodgers, and Padres in the top three. Any of those three teams can take the division, with Colorado and Arizona being way far back. I mean, Arizona was probably the worst team in baseball this season. Absolutely terrible. Colorado, I mean, is just unusual. Their road record's terrible, but at home, they actually have a great home record. In fact, they probably have among the best records at home in the majors, which is really odd, to say the least. Really, really odd, to say the least. And I don't think we're very far from the airport. In fact, we're pretty close to the airport. We are actually around, let me pull up, around 30 nautical miles away from the airport. Take it as you guess. So we're not too far away. Yeah. Now the merch stream was fun. Yesterday, I meant not yesterday, but Friday was very fun. So we actually simulated what real pilots at Oshkosh actually had to do. They actually had to practice for their they had to practice ATC, and I can understand why that's such a difficult job. And I know we had ASL veteran and all that. I'm going to give him credit for helping me out. But I gotta say, though, the people at the ATC don't get paid enough, like how difficult it is. I mean, Oshkosh is just so busy. So how the St. Louis Cardinals are doing? Well, the St. Louis Cardinals are doing quite well right now, Mart. However, the Cardinals are like middle of the pack in terms of the division this year, as they are third behind the Reds and Brewers. But I mean, they could make a push. It's just, unfortunately for the Cardinals this year, it's just they've been having to deal with a few issues. So that's kind of how I feel the Cardinals are doing. But that's a great question, actually. Like for their offense can be quite hit and miss this year. I know Yadier Molina has always been a great defensive catcher. Goldschmidt, I mean, he's been hitting a lot of home runs, and Nolan Arenado's really good, but his bat average is just not the same since he left Colorado. It's just the Cardinals have had a hit and miss year. I know Jack Flaherty has pitched really well this season, but I just don't see the Cardinals really doing that great. 10 years. Yeah, but St. Louis Cardinals has historically been an excellent franchise, Martell. Finally a trim. Just in. Hey, Zeus, you're finally in. But yeah, Martell. The Cardinals have actually been one of the most successful franchises in the Major League. They're like one of the top 5 most successful franchises in baseball history, alongside the Yankees, Red Sox, Athletics, and Giants, and Dodgers, actually. It's behind the Yankees, Red Sox, Athletics, and Dodgers as the most successful franchises in the league. So, I mean, the Cardinals are a good team. And the St. Louis also has some of the best fans in the league. And I think in about 3 weeks I might be able to do the Cardinals, because next one will be Detroit. Then after Detroit will be Chicago, and then I think it'll be a couple weeks before we visit St. Louis. Basically, my next couple weeks will be Detroit, um, Chicago, Milwaukee, and then Minneapolis. Then we do St. Louis. So that's kind of how my plan is. But seriously though, I am so excited for 2 days. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. If it means my stream performance would improve through the sim, that would be fantastic. Because I know that if I kept streaming for a long time, my game sometimes has frame issues. So if that gets fixed, I'm going to be an extremely happy camper. Nice plan. Take the Midwest and over. Yep. Yep, I agree. That's a good plan. Take the Midwest. I know that Detroit's Colonel Fork's team, so I want to do that one next. With Colonel Fork. But yeah. Now, the reason I wanted to go in Cleveland is because there's been a lot of rumors of baseball return back to Montreal. I know a lot of people saying that the Rays might be likely to return to Montreal, and I definitely think there's a possibility if the Rays don't buy out the agreement with the city of St. Petersburg, because the Rays don't play in downtown Tampa, they play all the way in St. Petersburg. So it's really unfortunate for the Rays fans. It's a terrible location because it's right across the bay and stuff. It would be if it would have been in downtown Tampa, I don't think we would have to worry about the relocation stuff, because the Rays competitively have always been a very solid team. But definitely some very nice scenic areas around here. Very, very nice areas. So I want to ask you all in the chat. So what do you guys think about of all the things that are coming on July 27th, what do you all think are the things you're going to be most excited for? Because I think there's a lot to really know about it. So, I do have a page. I have a really good page that I know of that shows the Cleveland Guardians in great detail. The whole world's now available. Cautiously optimistic. Yep, it's mainly performance improvements. So these are like the Indians. So this is why they choose the Guardians as well. And then this is like their main logos. This logo here is the main logo that's going to be on for the team. I like the new changes. Like, they still kept the red, white, and blue at the traditional team, but the new changes look really, really nice. So there's a lot of inspiration for the team. They got all the different logos. This is a really cool website. I love the Chris Creamer Sports website. And there's some people who even do mock-ups. But it looks really good. I think the Guardians have potential to be a great looking team. So let's see what people have said. You're cautiously optimistic. I completely agree with that. Like, I'm very excited for the changes, but I also agree with Stairway to Bacon. Sometimes things can break in updates that are not intended. That can very well happen. There's plenty of games that I know this can happen, so I completely understand. Captain Seppi's in the house. Good to see you, Captain Seppi. It is great to see you again. It's great to see you, Captain Seppi. So, we're flying to Montreal today there, Captain Seppi. Good to see you again. You wouldn't mind the gamers nibbling a flight sim? Yep. Like, I wouldn't mind it. Like, remember, for many of these people, this is their first flight sim. And you know what? When I was younger, back in the day, I used to do silly stuff all the time too when I got my hands on the first flight sim. But Microsoft Flight Simulator was the first serious flight sim I played. The only reason I couldn't play like things like X-Plane and stuff is because I didn't have a computer or laptop that could play it. And I didn't have great internet and stuff, so I couldn't download like updates and such. But now I'm here, and I'm doing a great time here as well. We'll see some crazy people flying madly on Tuesday. Yeah, that's gonna happen. But here's my tip, though: if people want to do it, just be respectful. All I ask for the people in the PC, just be respectful. Some of these people are brand new to the sim, either younger ones that have a really high interest in aviation, or even just players that have never got the opportunity to play a flight sim before, could now do it. And that's one of the great things about having it come to Xbox. But I think we, as the more experienced flight simmers, we should be mentoring and helping people, helping them learn and to expand their knowledge and such. I think those are the things. If those younger people are not respectful, then leave be. But if players want to be seriously interested and give them a chance, let them give them a chance and do what we do best and help our community. So we're going to be landing very shortly at runway 06 right. This will be the longer runway, so we're going to be taking that. I completely thank you. Thank you for the shout out. I appreciate it. But yeah, that's what we do as more experienced flight simmers. We gotta help the community. And we have so many awesome members of the community. So we gotta turn off the thing. Whoops. And we got to pull the flaps. So Mountain View is coming up very shortly. Gotta put the power on a little bit. This is a great opportunity. I absolutely Splasher. Get more people, generate aviation. That's awesome. Like, don't get me wrong. When I first got into Sim, I tried to master airliners and such. But once I've been with Murph and been to GA planes, I absolutely love the general aviation planes. I absolutely agree. But the first thing of a jet that I would take is either the MB339 or the CJ4. But I'm so happy that we got new people, fresh new blood for the flight sim, and I think it's something the community's been needing is more fresh blood. New people who really have an interest for the community, and I think there'll be greater interest. And I think that's something the flight sim community's been needing is new people to join in the community. Absolutely. Agree, Goblin. Let's see if we can nail this landing. Yeah, this is Mountain View Airport CPZ C3, Charlie Papa Zulu 3. And this should be stopped. Thanks to the reverse thrusters, I should get this thing stopped pretty easily. And that should be an easy stop. For the Beechcraft King Air. Nicely done, yeah. This is not an easy plane. This is a big plane to land. On the parking brake. Turn off the power control. Turn off mixture. That should get the engines off. And I think I could just turn off the aviation. This. Look at that. That is pretty impressive. Thank you, Captain Seppi. Yeah, this is a beautiful plane. I really like flying the King Air when I get the chance. Let's see who else is coming. There's Zeus. There's Kazaki Flyer. Godric. Still a long way for me to go till such a smooth landing. Roger that, Martel. There's Druid Zeus. Oh yeah, the Mighty King Air. Definitely a very nice Mrs. Jet. So actually, I just found out something. So Mountain View Airport is actually this airport right here serves. It actually serves as a training center for the Royal Canadian Air Cadets from May to October, and located there is actually de Havilland DHC CC-115 Buffalo. It's located in there in the runway. So that is the airport we're at right now. That's just something I wanted to learn more about the airport. Pretty neat stuff as well. And Kozaki Flyer in the Spitfire. That can be a tricky plane to land sometimes. I like the Spitfire, but it's not the easiest plane in the whole world to land, and you got the landing. Just watch out for the rudder. That can be tricky. Rudder is tricky. Yeah, the rudder is so tricky on the Spitfire. If that's something I would definitely tell you, it is very, very tricky. And I think everyone's landed that I know of. So I'm going to go ahead and get the next leg up, load up the next leg. Are you staying king here? Absolutely. I'm gonna stick it through all three legs of the flight. I think something that's changed is I'm no longer gonna do the ultralights on the last leg. I'm no longer gonna do it anymore just because of the frame stuff. I don't want to take any chances anymore. Maybe I'll do a test stream to see if the frame performance would improve for Sim Update 6. But as of now, I'm gonna just stick to the king gear for all three legs. So that's kind of my plan there, Kozaki. So I'm back in the game. Let's get this bad boy started once again. That's check, that's check. Get the props all the way up. Check. So turn on the generator, and then we just do the steps all over again for the left. Wait, I gotta turn it off. Whoops. Press the wrong space. I hate turbo prompts. There. So I just had to get the engine started for a bit. Gotta turn on the pilot heat. Sorry. I know, thankfully there's ghosted. Okay. So I'm going to take off from 1-way 2-4 left. Next destination? Well, our next destination, let me pull that up for you. So our next destination will be from Mountain View. We will be flying all the way to the capital of Canada, Ottawa, and we'll be landing at Charlie CYRO Rockcliffe Airport in Ottawa. So we'll be landing there, the capital of Canada, today. Let me go ahead and get taken off here. Oh, I forgot to turn on the avionics power switch. Charlie Yankee Oscar Whiskey. No, it's Charlie Yankee RO, which is Charlie Yankee. What is it again? I'm sorry. Oh, Charlie Yankee Romeo Oscar. So we got to turn off. So I got to decline to 1,500 feet. We're going to go 1,500 feet for the next leg. Yep, that's right. Romeo Oscar. Yeah. It's hard sometimes about the alphabet, and it's kind of hard to forget. I'm not really used to being a pilot myself. I also got to turn on the yaw damper. Let me turn on the lights. I gotta turn on the nav. Recognition lights, beacon light, and strobe lights are all on. Got all the lights. So we're gonna go down 1,500 feet. So actually, we're going to be heading to our destination today. I'm going to finally get this slideshow started. The lake makes beautiful scenery. I know. The lake looks wonderful. It's really good. Let me get the showcase camera. So, I'm going to be ready to finally get the slideshow started. So, my thing is episode 11. Play ball Le Milleur de Montreal, which is French for Montreal's finest. And the reason I wanted to make that title is because where we're heading to, the official language is not English, it's French. So I did it out of respect for the people of Quebec. So our destination today, it is going to be Ottawa, Ontario. So Ottawa is the capital city of Canada, and it stands at the south bank of the Ottawa River. It was founded in 1826 as Bytown, and it was incorporated as Ottawa in 1855. The city has evolved into becoming the political center of Canada. Especially nice to... There are quite a few Ottawa landmarks. There's Parliament Hall, which contains the Canadian Parliament that's been held here. The Rideau Canal is a very scenic spot in Ottawa. We can always make a visit there. And the Canadian War Museum, which displays the history of Canada's involvements from various wars, especially World War I and World War II. And compared to what a lot of people think, Canada actually played a very big role in both world wars as one of the major allied powers. And I think people don't give Canada the respect they kind of deserve. Now, notable Ottawans include Justin Trudeau, who's the current Prime Minister of Canada, Clint Benedict, who, for those that don't know, Clint Benedict is one of the most well-known hockey players of his era, and he was most well known for being a goaltender for the Ottawa Senators. He won 4 Stanley Cup championships and was one of the most innovative goaltenders, as he was the first goaltender to actually wear a face mask, which is something most hockey players still will to this day. And finally, the last player is Shane Smith, who Shane Smith is the founder of Vice Media and such, which contains very many different kinds, which is a very well-known media outlet. And an interesting fact as well, Ottawa is actually home to the NHL's Ottawa Senators and the Canadian Football League's Ottawa Red Blacks. So kind of a bit of an interesting thing to point out. let's see. I need to increase the speed a bit. I think it's going a bit slow. Gonna be 35 miles an hour. So I had to increase the speed a bit. Did you know that Queen Victoria chose Ottawa because it was centrally located between the cities of Montreal and Toronto? Yeah. It was also far from the North American border. Yeah, you gotta consider, the United States back in the day, because of the War of 1812, I mean, they did plenty of attacks in Canada and such. And also considering the fact that Montreal and Toronto are the two, Toronto and Montreal are the two most populated cities as well. And the fact that Quebec and Ontario are both very different worlds when you've been into. So actually, Montreal's history of baseball actually didn't start in 1969. Montreal's baseball scene was established even further back in the 1890s. Montreal's baseball team was known as the Montreal Royals. They were actually the top farm club for many teams in the International League, but most recently had been the AAA affiliate of the Brooklyn and LA Dodgers from 1939 to 1960. They were one of the most well-known most successful minor league teams of the sport, winning 9 league titles from 1896 to 1960. And they played at the 20,000-seat Delamere Stadium. So this team holds the unique place in baseball history for being the first major league affiliate to break the baseball color barrier, and they have enjoyed great success, hosting many iconic alumni, including Roberto Clemente, Duke Snider, and obviously the most well-known of all the players, Jackie Robinson, the one who broke the color barrier. And in fact, originally, the Major League Baseball team, had they got the opportunity, they could have been renamed the Montreal Royals into the Major Leagues, but the problem is the team in Kansas City already had the nickname. So they chose the Expos instead. Now, the Expos were established back in '69 as the first expansion team in Canada, and they were a part of the National League from 1969 to 2004 as well. So if you wonder how they got the Expos name, well, they named it after the Expo 67 World's Fair that was held in Montreal that year. So it was a nice way to include. Now, the logo here is very unique. The logo itself is actually named after it. There's the E, which is Expos, and then there's the M, which is Montreal. So you have Montreal Expos in there. It's a very unique logo. Definitely one of the more iconic logos. So they played at Olympic Stadium and had previously played at Jerry Park Stadium in Montreal. And they actually played at Hayward Bithorn Stadium, and that was actually in Puerto Rico, of all places. But they only played there for a few games a year due to the Puritans of Montreal at the time. And that was during the 2000s. Their team colors are red, white, and blue, like a lot of other ball clubs. And their all-time record was 2,753 wins, 2,943 losses, and 4 ties during their 36 years in the Montreal. A fun fact about the Expos is that after they left, the mascot of the team, Youppi, became the mascot of Montreal's NHL team, the Canadiens. And this was the first time a mascot actually was transferred from one sports league to another, which is unique. And for those who don't know about the Canadiens, they are basically the hockey equivalent to the New York Yankees. Like, they've had some of the greatest hockey players of all time as well. One of them being Maurice Richard. And if you want to know how many division championships World Series they won, the Expos only had no World Series, and they only had one division title to show for it. They almost got to greatness in '94 until the MLB strike, and that's something I'll cover a bit soon. Now, the Expos came to the league after the Royals' demise. Montreal Mayor John Drapeau and City Executive Gary Snyder. Captain said his favorite sport, hockey. I actually want to do a hockey series someday. I may want to do a stream on that too. So, Gary Snyder campaigned for a Major League Baseball team after the Royals' demise. And then finally on May 27th, 1968, National President War Giants announced that the league would add expansion teams in San Diego and Montreal at $10 million each. San Diego eventually became the Padres. With Gene Munch the manager, the Expos made their debut in '69 with an 11-10 victory over the Mets, and played their first ever game in Canada on April 14th, which is the first MLB game outside the US, which the Expos won over the Cardinals at Jerry Park Stadium. However, just like a lot of expansion teams, they did struggle for their first season. They only won 52 wins and 110 losses for their first season. Welcome for to all in the chat. Great to see you here. So we're flying to Ottawa for the next leg. As well. So for the Expos, they fared better. They only fared a little better in the following seasons, including a 73-89 year in 1970, in a 71-90 season in 1971. However, in its first 10 years, they failed to even post a winning season and finished 5th or 6th in the NL East 8 times. Not only was the on-the-field performance very concerning, but the fact is they had trouble getting fans, as Jerry Park was only intended to serve as a temporary home until 1971, because they were still trying to build Olympic Stadium at the time, which was their big stadium. For the 1971 season, they finally moved to their new ballpark, Olympic Stadium, 6 years later than scheduled. And I think the reason for that was because they built it for the 1976 Olympics for held in Montreal that year. In 1979, they finally had their first winning season in franchise history, as they finished second to the Pirates by 2 games with a 95-65 record. In 1981, they made their first ever postseason appearance and won their very first and only division title. They actually went all the way to the AL NLCS, but they lost to the Los Angeles Dodgers in 5 games, particularly one infamous moment by Rick Monday. It was caused by local Montreal fans to be known as Black Monday. Let go, Bucks. Yeah, the Pirates aren't doing so well this year. For it all, unfortunately. But by the 1979 season, the Expos have a reputation for having one of the strongest player development systems in baseball, having guys like Gary Carter, Tim Raines, and Andre Dawson. Those were all really awesome players back then, but they never did really well. In 1982, with all that talent, they were expected to win the NL East, but they kind of disappointed, finishing only 3rd in the East. Black Monday? Yeah. So basically, for those who don't know, Black Monday in Montreal refers to the championship. Blue Monday, I mean. It's actually Blue Monday. Blue Monday was nicknamed when Rick Monday hit a home run that absolutely killed the Expo fans. And it was really bad. In fact, that probably hurt the Expos for a long time. It's Blue Monday, actually. But yeah, it's a very infamous moment in the history of the Expos. However, Montreal's failed 1984 season actually was really bad for the Expos. They lost 31% of their attendance, and not to mention, and that happened at the same time as many of the salaries were rising to baseball. As a result, players like Gary Carter, Andre Dawson, and Tim Raines were all traded from Montreal for the rest of the decade, which is really unfortunate. And that's because Montreal has always been a team. They've always been a penny pinching franchise. They try not to spend so much money, and it really hurt them in the long run. And mind you, those 3 players I was talking about, those are all Hall of Fame players too. So that really stunk. On the field, the Expos only won just 4 more games than they lost between the years 1986 and 1991. As they actually rebuilt their development system and they acquired a new generation of players. And there were some really good ones too, as well, like Pedro Martinez and such. Which brings us to part 4. In 1991, they finished with a 71-90 record. However, they built a really good foundation of young talent back there. Larry Walker, Marquise Grissom, Delino Shields, alongside a few other really good pitchers. The future looked bright in Montreal, as they proved on the field as they won 87 games in 1992 and 94 wins in 93. But they finished second to the mighty Atlanta Braves, who were the team of the 90s. However, 1994 was something of a magical season for Montreal. With a record of a 74 and 40 wins, they were on pace for a 100-win season, which would have been the most wins in Montreal history, and they were about to lead the division. However, the worst thing could have happened for the Expos. Their luck could have never been worse. On August 12, 1994, the players of the Major League Baseball, they did a strike. So they actually did a strike in 94, and the reason for that was because the owners were wanting to put a salary cap, and they felt if the owners put the salary cap, the players would be paid a lot less, and their salaries would have not been high enough to get paid. So they did the strike, and it absolutely ruined the Expos. Of all the teams that were affected in the strike, Montreal got the worst of it. It was really, really bad. In fact, things were so horrible in Montreal that during the offseason, they did a fire sale. They got rid of a ton of players. They traded their really good players to try and get more pieces developed. So they traded Ken Hill, John Weddleman, and Marquise Grissom were traded. Larry Walker, the main star of the Expos during that time, left to become a free agent, and he became a member of the Rockies. And their other players, including Moises Alou and Pedro Martinez, will also follow as well, which is a huge blow to the Expos. This was a massive blow to the franchise. I mean, the 1994 Expos are one of the greatest what-if stories. In fact, I would be honest, had that strike never happened, the Expos could have gone to the postseason, they could have even made it to the World Series, and had they been allowed to succeed, they could have made it to the World Series, and they could have even potentially even won the whole thing. If they did that, baseball would be here in Montreal. We wouldn't be talking about the Washington Nationals. We would be continuing to talk about the Expos. Had they actually not have suffered for the strike. And due to that strike, the following season, the fans in Montreal are absolutely livid after everything that happened, and I don't blame them. And in 95, they finished last in the National League East. And thanks to the loss of those, and even with the loss, they were still competitive in 96. But for the next 5 years, they fared very poorly. Things did not go well. Eventually, they got a new owner, Jeffrey Loria, in 1999, and he promised to rebuild the team with a winning attitude and winning players in order to take them back. Unfortunately, things got even worse, as if things can't get any worse. In 2001, they were almost contracted out of the league. They were almost disbanded in the league, alongside the Twins in 2001 due to ownership issues. And Loria just sold the Expos in order to buy the Marlins. And with all those bad things, combined with the fact that Olympic Stadium has not been a great ballpark, just soured the fans a lot. And on September 29, 2004, the Expos will be relocated to Washington, D.C., ending 39 years of baseball in Montreal. However, I don't think this is the end for Montreal baseball. I think it can return. Especially considering that the Tampa Bay Rays have had major attendance issues with Tropicana Field's bad location, we could see baseball eventually return back to Montreal. It's going to take some time though, but I definitely think it could return. As well. Now, speaking of which, there are definitely some few icons of Montreal I do want to talk about. The first player I want to mention is Rusty Staub. Now, Rusty Staub was an original member of the Expos in 1969. He played a few seasons in the Major Leagues and other teams, and he actually played for 23 seasons, which is a long time for Major League Baseball. But he was the original player for the Expos and their first star in franchise history. He was a .270 hitter with 2,716 hits, 292 home runs, and 1,466 RBIs. He was a 6-time All-Star, and even though they only traded him after 3 years, he was so popular by the fans that the Expos actually retired his number back in 1993, which shows you the popularity for the fan base. And the fun fact is that he's the only Major League player ever to have 500 hits with 4 different teams, which is pretty amazing. Hey, Arctic Turn, I'm doing wonderful. We're almost heading to Ottawa, actually. We're almost in Ottawa, Canada right now. So this will be a really fun and interesting journey to take. The next player I want to talk about is probably the best player to play for the Expos, actually. This player is Gary Carter. Now, Gary Carter spent 19 seasons in the majors, and he's one of the finest catchers in Major League history, particularly in the 1980s. His hitting and defense really set him apart from a lot of the other catchers of his era. He was a .262 hitter. He had 324 home runs and 1,225 RBIs. The man was actually an 11-time All-Star, a 5-time Silver Slugger, and a 3-time Gold Glove winner at catcher, which is really impressive for someone of his caliber. The fact he could play both offense and defense really was just made him a great catcher. He was also a big piece of those 1986 Mets team, alongside Keith Hernandez, Darryl Strawberry, and Drew Gooden. Now, when he was inducted to the Hall of Fame back in 2003, he was the first Hall of Famer to actually depict him in his cap as a member of the Expos. So make him the first member to be depicted as an Expo. Then the next player I'm going to mention, Andre Dawson. This guy is one of the most exciting players to watch back in the 80s. He was known as the Hawk due to how athletic he was. Andre Dawson was one of the most exciting outfielders of the 1980s. Not only was he known as an Expo, but he was also very well known for his tenure as a Cub. However, the thing that Dawson was most known for is his incredible work ethic and his study of the game. And that gives you a lot of credit if you can manage to work hard and become an effective baseball player afterwards. Andre Dawson was an 8-time All-Star, a 4-time Silver Slugger, the 8-time Gold Glove winner, and the 1987 NL MVP. Dawson was just all-around a great player. He can absolutely rake the baseball. He can hit for average. He may not be the greatest for average, but he has good power, and his defense and agility are really good. Just all-around a fantastic player. He is one of 8 players in Major League history to actually have 300 home runs and 300 stolen bases, which is very, very nice for a player of Andre Dawson's caliber. And finally, the last player, and the most recent Expo to make the Hall of Fame. Actually, he's the most recent one to know about the Expos, Tim Raines. Now, he was known as the Rock, Tim Raines established him as one of the best leadoff hitters in Major League history. He played left field for 6 different teams from 1979 to 2002, and he was most well known for his 13 seasons in Montreal. Tim Raines was a .294 hitter. He had over 2,600 hits. He only had 170 home runs, but I mean, he wasn't really that well known for being a power hitter. He had 980 RBIs, and he actually has 808 stolen bases, which actually makes him 3rd all-time of stolen bases. The only 2 higher than Tim Raines is Rickey Henderson and Lou Brock. And both of those guys are in the Hall of Fame as well. He was a 7-time All-Star. He was a batting champion of 1986. He was a Silver Slugger award that same year too, and he was 4 times the nationally stolen base leader, which is extremely impressive. And the fact is that Tim Raines holds many Expo records, including career singles, triples, walks, and stolen bases. And those are records still today with the Expos. So definitely something to keep an eye. Now, the other legends I do want to consider, there are 2 other ones I considered. The 2 that I considered were Larry Walker and Vladimir Guerrero. Now, Larry Walker had a great career in Montreal, but he became much more of a star in Colorado. And the reason I didn't pick Vladimir Guerrero Sr. is because Guerrero is much more well known for his career in Los Angeles. Even though he had more years in Montreal, he's much more memorable as an Angel. So those are just players I considered as well. But those are absolutely the players I considered. So that's just why I picked the way it is. So we're heading here Ottawa right now. We're almost there. So ahead of us is one of the lakes, Mississippi Lake in particular. But the thing that I'm excited for is is the new floatplanes. The game really needed new floatplanes. Like, don't get me wrong about the Icon A5. Like, the Icon's a cool plane, but we've been really needing some new floatplanes. The Cessna 172 with floats and the Escobar floats are really cool additions, but the one I'm most excited is the Shock Ultra with floats. And knowing me, the Shock Ultra is one of my favorite planes to fly in the sim. That plane is a short takeoff and landing machine. It could take off within 100 foot. Though the thing I'm surprised is why didn't the Savage Cub get floats? Or the Cessna 208? Those are two awesome planes that can get floats. So that's the only reason I'm just surprised. I'm hoping eventually Solo gets to put in the Savage Cub with floats, because it is based off the Super Cub. It's just such an iconic plane. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Yes, both those with floats. I know. There's so many cool planes. We definitely need more bush floats. I know that Milviz are doing the DHC-2 Beaver. That plane looks so cool. Like, that's been one of the JU-52 with floats, or the DC-3 with floats is pretty cool. Oh yeah, there's so many cool float planes. But Milviz has actually done their DHC-2 Beaver, which is right here. Let me load this up for you. So this is the Beaver. This is so cool. This is a plane that they need to add in the sim right now. The Beaver is such an iconic bush plane. It's a high fidelity DHC-2 Beaver. That is what we need in the sim. And it's going to come with floats too. It's going to be such a cool plane. Here's where the floats, the cockpit. Now, don't get me wrong, the Milviz Corsair is pretty cool, but I kind of hesitated from buying the Corsair, but I would definitely consider the Beaver. That's more of my speed. Gosh, that looks familiar. I know, it's a DHC-2 Beaver. Yeah, Milviz was the one who did their own Beaver, I believe, in X-Plane. They will add the water from the floats. Yeah, I saw some of that too. It looked really nice. I need to do a test stream at some point doing sim update. Maybe I might do something pretty soon. So our first waypoint, Ottawa, we're going to be visiting the Canadian Tire Center, and that's the arena for the Ottawa Senators. We'll be paying a visit there. Look, if you guys want to do, pay attention to whatever I stream, or you guys want to get ready for a chat or two, I have my Discord. I'm hoping the Discord link works. So feel free to check out my Discord and pay it a visit. I think it would be really nice if we continue the conversation. I think it would be really fun to chat, socialize, and get caught on wherever I stream. Mark a squirrel up for me. Oh no. I know you're the Spitfire. Oh, did you overheat the engine on the Spitfire there, Kazaki? Oh, I bet that's why you hit a squirrel. The thing I still can't believe was the fact I still can't believe that HCBR can manage to keep up with the steering with the 339. I don't know how he did it, but I mean, to be fair, he is the pilot of the Thunderflies. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the autopilot. So right here is Canadian Tire Center to my northwest. See, down here. So that right here is Canadian Tire Center. That is home of the Ottawa Senators, the major NHL team of the National Hockey League. So that is right there. So we're gonna fly pretty low into the city of Ottawa. I'm gonna return this thing. No, the crosswind stalled me on the right wing. She dropped at 70 while you're on final. Oh, the crosswind. Oh no. On landing 2? That, ouch. Crosswinds Harvest Spitfire. I bet. Especially with all that light, the lightning flaps. So we're gonna be heading to Parliament Hill for a bit. Once we go to Parliament Hill, we're gonna be visiting. We're gonna actually then visit RCGT Park. This was actually where the Ottawa Lynx used to play baseball. There's the Canadian Parliament down here. So there it is, the Canadian Parliament, Parliament Hill, right over here. We're just gonna fly over for a bit. Look at that. We're just gonna bypass the Canadian Parliament. That's Ottawa for you. That's cool. Ottawa's lovely. It's a very nice, definitely a very nice city. So for the runway, we're gonna be landing on one. We're just gonna go straight in. So we're gonna land on runway 09 is where we're gonna be landing. So we're gonna land straight in. There's the old Ottawa Lynx ballpark, RCGT Park. Right over here. Yeah, that's one of the problems. Even if you turn up the sound, the King Air's landing thing can still be heard. She's slow compared to the King Air, but she'll get me where I'm going. Yes, it is Goose time. Actually, I'm not even going to go very fast in the Goose either. In fact, for much of it, I kept it at 160, which isn't that slow. The other thing I'm really excited about the new world update is actually the updated world map. So the thing is, when you usually go into the world map, actually, let me get this bad boy landed first. King Air. So I'm down. Just let me turn off the propeller. I'm going to turn off the avionics. So that should complete, like a flight, it is completed. There's friends of all. Nice seeing you around here. Stairway to Bacon. Ouch. So yeah, so there's something I do want to talk for a sec. So tomorrow Murph's gonna do his stream. We're gonna be heading to Rome on tomorrow. So he's gonna be actually on the red platform. Yes, I can't really mention it, but he's gonna be on the red platform tomorrow, and we'll be flying to Rome to see the Colosseum. So that would be very fun. Yeah, we made Rome and Waco. We made Rome and Waco and Colonel Fork. In YouTube, yes, friend to all, but we can't really. I can't really speak of it too much. Yes, so I try to keep it respectful for Twitch and their terms of service. So, yes, it's more of a respect sort of thing. That's why I said it. Manny Pacquiao versus Spence. Great question there, Brandon J. Good to see you. I would take Manny Pacquiao if I had to pick between one of the two. Yep. Manny Pacquiao is one of the greatest boxers of his weight class of all time. I mean, he's so popular. Pacquiao's even served as governor in the Philippines because of just how popular he is. He's a national icon. So I had to pick Manny Pacquiao. Though Spence is quite a solid boxer in his own right too. Steroid of Bacon. There's Zeus. He's down. Yeah, I just live right next to in Jinsan. That's pretty cool. That's cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and go back to the main menu. So for all those chats who just came here, I really appreciate all of you being here. If you don't mind, it would be really nice to support me on the channel. If you want to continue to support me, give me a follow, and everything will be really appreciated. All the support means a lot to me, so that's something I really do appreciate. Top 5 aircraft in the game. My top 5 is the Savage Cub, the Zen Shock Ultra, X Cub, the a third-party plane, the Aerolite 103, and finally the last plane I consider is one of my favorites, and that being the Cirrus SR-22. So those are my top 5 there, Brandon. So let me get the last leg of the flight set up. Top 5 worst. All the airliners. No, airliners are not. Airliners are not for me. No, airliners. Airliners are not very good. I like most of the planes in the game. I'm not fond of the airliners. The A320, 787. and 747 are not my favorites. Then the least, one of these two favorites are going to be the CJ4 and the Citation Longitude, but those aren't bad planes. It's just the unfortunate thing is that Sobo, they're not really that great with the airliners, unfortunately, and that's one of the reasons why you see a lot of airliner pilots still playing P3D and X-Plane 11, those other sims. Do you mean like the jets? Yes, the the jets as well. But the CJ4 and Citation aren't even that bad. Like I don't mind flying those planes, but they're the worst just because I'm not really nearly as great with them as other planes. Do you have the mods? I don't really have the mods so far, the improvement mods and stuff. I don't really fly with jets very much, so that's why I don't really have them. I usually have the general aviation mods, like I usually have the X-Cup mods, which gives me extra performance and such from Bush Legends. I don't have. I do have the working title G3X, but that's the only kind of those avionics mods I have, and I don't have the G5000 mods for the Longitude. The TB930 is really good. It's a very fun plane alongside the King Air. I know they did a whole improvement thing, but I don't really have it. Like, because of the same reasons, I don't really fly these planes very much. I'm much more of a slow kind of guy. The GTN, I've heard a lot of great things about the GTN, but I never get a chance to use it, so... So for me at least, I'm back on the runway. So next I need to take off at around, I can go to 1,500 feet, which is probably going to go to this time. But yeah, these are great questions there, Brand J. Those are some excellent questions. I'm going to go ahead and take off. And I'm just going to wait in the air for you guys to take off. So all you guys can join me in the last leg of the journey. My personal favorite is the PL3. I think you meant the VL3, but yeah, the VL3 is a great plane. Absolutely beautiful. It's very easy to fly. You can take off from a really short runway. It's got great takeoff performance. It's fun to fly. The visibility is amazing. The visibility on that thing is incredible. Absolutely incredible. And there's a silver mod called the Vertigo, and that thing is actually nuts. Brian J asks, whose crew would you rather have, Pacquiao or Mayweather? Good question. If I had to pick between Mayweather and Pacquiao, I'm gonna go with Pacquiao because I mean the fact you have a successful political career and a successful boxing career. Brian Mayweather is one of the great boxers of all time, but I'd rather have Pacquiao's career because he actually represents his people and such. So I gotta pick Manny Pacquiao over Mayweather. Boy Mayweather, so I gotta pick him instead. But that's a great question there, Brinjay. Where am I from? I'm actually from Southern Indiana, from the United States. Southern Indiana. I'm actually 30 minutes. I'm around Louisville, Kentucky. So that's where I'm around there. Where are you from there, Brandon J? Ah, the Philippines. Oh yes, I remember. Oh yes, the Philippines. The Philippines are absolutely beautiful, from what I know. The Philippines can be an absolutely beautiful country. The country has really luscious rainforests and stuff. Don't worry, Kazaki. You can always rejoin me back on the journey. Don't worry, Kazaki. I'm not gonna fly that fast. But yeah, the Philippines is awesome, Branch, eh? It's it's got a very long and colorful history about the Philippines. Being colonized by both the United States, by Spain and the United States, it has a very unique world in the Philippines. Colorful food. It's a very nice place to fly over. Absolutely. Yes, you can find lots of awesome sceneries in Flight Sim. Absolutely. Oh yes, the Philippines is quite nice. I definitely should be going fly there a bit more often. But thank you for that there. Um, but thank you for the support. So I usually do is have my own slideshows and stuff, and that way I just put all the information about the teams, but also the locations we're all visiting and such, so that way everyone can know about what I'm talking about. Martel says you gotta go to bed. Hey, I really appreciate you stopping by there, Martel. I hope you I hope you have a good sleep and such. Do you prefer regional airports or big international airports? I prefer both airports, depending on which. But the things I love is I love the bush trips. Flying in the short territories, those are where I like. Give me a dedicated bush plane. That's awesome. New PCU, GPU, player RAM. I can see this detail now. That's awesome, Kazaki. That's awesome. Get a new PC. That's awesome. And once you get the performance updates, Kazaki, I think things are going to be probably be even better for you. So, now let's get start with the next thing. So we're going to be entering Quebec soon. So Quebec is one of the 13 provinces of Canada, but this is actually one of the most unique ones. Quebec is the largest province by area and the second largest by population with 8,164,361 people. Second only to Ontario, which is both Ottawa and Toronto. Now, the most unique thing about Quebec is that the official language is not English; it's French, and the reason for this is that it was actually part of France, not Britain. 94.6% of the people's population has knowledge of French, which is higher than everything else in Canada. And in New France, this was the most developed colony. However, after the 7 Years' War between Britain and France, Quebec became British. But, but despite all those years, though, Quebec still managed to keep a very unique identity and such. Hello there, Izzy Jake. Good to see you. Yes, it's going to be launched on Tuesday. I cannot wait for you all to join the sim. I want to see new people have a great time with the sim and enjoy it. I think that is something I'm super stoked for. So it's great to see you, ISU Jake. More infrastructures or more vegetation? I think just more detail in general, I believe. I think you turn up the settings. So, what are some differences between Quebec and the rest of Canada? Well, one of the major differences between Quebec and the rest of Canada is the fact the official language is French, while the rest of Canada is English, and that's due to the fact that Quebec has been formed by France. Also, unlike the rest of Canada, which is based off the civil law system. Private law itself is exercised under a civil law system, while public law is based on common law. So it's very different law systems in Quebec and the rest of Canada. That's because Quebec is a very special kind of province. Quebec has a vibrant, different culture that's very, very different from the rest of Canada. Which river do you know about the Philippines? Well, there's quite a few things about the Philippines I do know. So, the Philippines were colonized from the Spanish back in the 1500s all the way to 1898. Then it was possessed by the United States from 1898 all the way to 1946. When the Philippines declared independence on July 4th, 1946, is their independence from decolonization. Philippines is the birthplace of a very iconic fast food chain, Jollibee, which serves classic Philippine takes of many of the iconic foods. As well, the Philippines are an archipelago of many different islands due to Southeast Asia. So those are kind of some of the things I know about the Philippines. I know the Philippines is home to lots of brilliant wildlife. And of course, I can't forget about the largest city in all the Philippines, Manila. One of the largest urban populations in the world lives in Manila. And it's quite a cultural center and a major hub for the Philippines. So that's kind of some of the things I do know about it. I wish I could learn more, but I think the Philippines is such an underrated country. Also, it's the only country in Asia that the primary language is Spanish, while everything else speaks. Why, thank you, Brian J. I'm not like some of those Americans who are ignorant in geography. How do I know this? I'm very knowledgeable. I do lots of research, and I seem to retain knowledge extremely well. I know all this based on research. I like to read a lot, and I think for some reason I'm really good about keeping all this information that I learn. No, not Spanish. We speak Tagalog. Oh, Tagalog in English. Oh, Tagalog's the native language in English, but I know Spanish has been spoken in the past. But Tagalog and Spanish are the top two. Pinatumbo. Oh, yeah. Yeah, volcanoes. I can't forget Philippines volcanoes. Tagalog is heavily influenced by Spanish. Yeah, because of the Spanish colonization, there's a lot of loan words in Tagalog. Tagalog, absolutely. There's a lot of loan words. Ah, that's nice, Renault. That's cool. It's from the Philippines. Yeah, Philippines, such an awesome place. I definitely want to do some flying over the Philippines at some point. So, I still got this slideshow to complete. And the reason that Quebec is very different is because, like I said, for the French culture stuff is very, very popular and well known in all of Canada, whereas the rest of Canada is much more English. And as a result, that's why Quebec looks at the rest of Canada as like Canada looks at the U.S. Like it's very, very different. And due to all the culture differences, Quebec's actually had a few different independence movements through the past century, usually by referendums and stuff, but that's never been usually passed. So that's something to keep in mind about Quebec. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, Montreal is actually a very cool city. It's the second most populous city in Canada and is the most populous city in Quebec. It was founded in 1842 as Ville Marie, or the City of Mary. It is actually named after Mount Royal, which is a really tall hillside right outside of the city. Now, Montreal's it's the main capital of French Canada, and it's still one of the most important cities in Canada even after all those years. Because yeah, that's right there, Kentucky Flyer. Tagalog is a mix of Spanish and English. Now, some Montreal landmarks, they include Old Montreal, which is this neighborhood in the picture. That represents Old Montreal. You can actually get structures all the way back to the 1700s. The Notre Dame Basilica is the Catholic church located in the city. It's a very beautiful church. I've seen pictures of it. Absolutely beautiful. And Mount Royal Park. Now, other places too. There's the Bell Center. That's where the Canadians play. and the Canadiens are a huge deal in Montreal. And also, they also have these Canadian football leagues. Montreal Alouettes play football there as well. Now, famous Montrealers, they include Maurice Richard. And for any hockey fans that are around here, Maurice Richard should be a very familiar name. He is one of the greatest hockey players of all time. Oh yeah, we like singers' performance from Canada. Yeah, that's a big deal in France. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a rising star in the major leagues, the son of legendary uh, player Vladimir Guerrero, and he was born in Montreal as well. And I think the last one is all you Star Trek fans should probably know this guy, William Shatner, the Captain Kirk himself, was born in Montreal. And one of the interesting facts about Montreal is that it's the only city in Canada to actually host the Olympics, as it hosted the 1976 Summer Olympics. So I think that's pretty cool. And obviously in Montreal, Quebecs are a big deal. As well. Oh yes, I know about William Shatner. Yep, he's from Montreal. So there's two more things I do want to talk about. First is Jerry Park. Now this was the original home of the Expos. This was originally built in 1960 and was the home for the Expos from 69 to 1976. Originally it was 3,000 seats, but they expanded it to 28,000 when the Expos arrived. Now the dimensions were symmetrical, so these are the symmetrical dimensions, meaning a symmetrical outfield has the same dimensions. For those who've never been there, there are plenty of modern fields that are asymmetrical dimensions, and that was due to the areas it was built. But this ballpark is symmetrical. And some of the most notable, and one of the most unique features is there's a swimming pool in right field, and sometimes balls can actually be hit in that swimming pool. It's a community-owned swimming pool too. Now, some of the most notable moments is Quebec's relationship to Canada similar to the United States? To me, Quebec's relationship to the Canada, I think it's like, which I relate. It's very different world. It's like, I think it's more like the U.S. having a very unique relationship with Texas or something, because Texas is a very independent thing. I would compare it more like Texas or California. It's like a very different world, internet. But if I pick an international relationship, it's like the UK and Scotland, like England and Scotland. They're all part of the UK, but each have their own cultures. Yeah, is Quebec both a province and city? Yes, there's Quebec as a province, but there's also Quebec City, and that's the second most populous city in Quebec. So that's correct. Yep. So, some notable moments in Jerry Park include the first MLB game in Canada back in '69. The last game, Willie Mays' last game as a Giant was there in 1972. And the first hitter outside the U.S. that happened in '72 as well. Louisiana is a case we were looking for. Yep. I think Louisiana is something similar. Yep. As there's still elements of Cajun culture, it's not nearly as crazy as Quebec is. Quebec has been much more insular compared to that. Now, the fun fact about Jerry Park is actually when the Expos left the stadium in '76, it wasn't actually torn down. Instead, Jerry Park was actually converted into a tennis stadium, which is the bottom picture in there. And it actually hosts the Canadian Open, which is their version of the US Open. So it's quite a cool thing, and that's why we will be flying over it today. And the last one is Olympic Stadium. So Olympic Stadium was actually built in 1976. It was opened in '76 for the Summer Olympics that year. And it was reconverted back to a baseball stadium in 1977. And it was the home of the Expos from there to 2004. For baseball-wise, it had a capacity of 45,000. But for Canadian football, it can be turned up to 66,000 people. And the dimensions are symmetrical, and I put the dimensional things in the text. Now, one of the most interesting things about Olympic Stadium is is the fact that it's the world's tallest inclined structure. Yes, this whole stadium is inclined on top of there. The roof is only 52 meters above the field of play, so there are sometimes that balls actually hit off the roof of the stadium. And as a result, there are sometimes fly balls that hit off the top of the roof. That can actually happen. And it also holds the soccer record for soccer game attendance in Canada when they, in 1976, when Canada played against West Germany, 72,000 people were supposed to be played there. Also, this thing was actually supposed to actually have a retractable roof, but that roof never worked, so they had to put a permanent roof on there, and the roofs weren't really durable, as snow and storms actually tore holes through the roof, and they already now went through their fourth roof. And one of the nicknames of the stadium is called the Big O, not just because of the O in Olympic Stadium, it's also because this was an extremely costly stadium. They didn't pay their debts all the way to the 90s for this stadium. Like, it's really expensive. So we'll be visiting there as well. So, there you go. And that's all my slideshow stuff for today. So we're going to actually pick up some speed. So Louisiana may be the case, not really as much, because with American settlers and stuff, though when I talk about French, I think it's meant the Louisiana culture, and it formed their own Creole and Cajun culture, so that's kind of what you're asking for there, friends all. So why don't you guys give me a follow? I think it would be really appreciated to support my channel and help it grow. I think that's the key. And I actually have a Discord as well. So if you guys haven't, feel free to visit me on my Discord. And that way you can keep up to the latest news about my stream, post fun pictures of your flights and adventures, and more. So click the link and we'll get there. How many languages do you speak in America? Well, for me, I only speak one language. But there are people that I know. My brother actually speaks a bit of German, but that's all the way back in high school. But America's quite the multilingual country since it doesn't have any official languages. So some people speak Spanish in America. There are places that speak German, Spanish. There might be French speakers like in Louisiana and such. There's a large Arabic speaking population in around Detroit. Bump up, you're out. Just watching out. That's fine there. There, Kazaki. But there's been a lot of minority languages. Some people speak Polish, and around Chicago and such speak Polish. But America is quite a unique culture. There's Indian. Some people speak Indian. But it's due to the fact there's a lot of assimilation and stuff going on. It is a cultural melting pot, absolutely. They're all melted into this one thing. I think that's one of the things that separate the United States is the fact they still represent their own cultures and such, but we're all in this together, and that makes America kind of unique compared to some of the other countries. And right ahead of us is the Ottawa River. How old are you, man? I'm 26. If you're in the city of LA, that might be $50,000-$60,000 because it depends on where you're located. If you're in New York, you probably get paid a bit more. It's based on location and your qualifications for the job, Brandon J. I think that's kind of what it looks like. A lot of countries are a culture, if you go back in time, absolutely. Most people make 10,000. Most people make around between 10,000 and $10 million per year. Yeah, that depends on what your job, um, in your job qualification stuff. It depends on your position, your experience. There's a lot of things. Depends on your environment, the company you work for. There's a lot of factors. Here in the Philippines, the average monthly salary is $300 and multiply by 12. Ah, that's the Philippines. So you make around $3,600 a year for US dollars. I wonder. Let me see what the Philippines currency, because so in terms of pesos, if I had to convert to that's around 180,890 Philippine pesos, I believe. I did that for currency. That's what I kind of think it is. It's 180,000 Philippine pesos. I'm actually going to take a bit of a detour. I'm actually going to disengage autopilot, turn off the yaw damper. I'm going to actually head left. We're going to go through downtown Montreal for a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and fly over there. Yeah, here you can build a mansion for $100,000. Yep. I know it's cheap, but I mean, it makes sense because 1 peso of the Philippine peso equals 2 cents. Two American cents. That's kind of how the currency stuff works. But that's so cool. I didn't learn all about the. I never learned a lot of this stuff about the Philippines. That's cool. In U.S. average now $360,000 for a single family home. Maybe 7 years of average, although it varies wildly. Yeah, like I said, it varies because of job description stuff. So there's downtown Montreal to our left. Yeah, I don't like working here, honestly. That's why you apply for remote jobs in the United States. Ah, I see. Also, I think there's one more thing forgot about the Philippines. Philippines also have to deal with lots of typhoons. Being Southeast Asia, they got to deal with lots of typhoons. The Filipino one. And from what I'm looking about the Philippines, there's about 1,100 land vertebrate species, over 100 different mammal species, and 170 bird species. The most famous being the Philippine eagle. I've seen a lot of them in the zoos. Beautiful birds. There's Montreal down below. There's downtown Montreal, which is gonna. Yes, typhoons like 4 times a year as it passes here in the Philippines, the Pacific Ring of Fire. Yep. Ugh. The poor Philippines getting hurt by typhoons. That's really unlucky. Yikes. And this is the famous St. Lawrence River. That's why they had to build a canal over to access the St. Lawrence. This is where a lot of shipping used to be back in the day. Went through the St. Lawrence. At least it controls the population. Team pregnancy is a big problem here. So the typhoons just reduce the population. I know that how strong is like Catholicism down in the Philippines? I know it's one of the few major outposts of the Catholic Church. So I think that's kind of a big deal. So I'm passing over Nuns Island. So this is the Nuns Island here in Montreal. Now we're getting to the photogrammetry Montreal. Look at that for view. This is Montreal. This is cool. So that hill right here to our left, that is Mount Royal up there. This is cool. Montreal. There's the there's the Bell Center right down to my left. That's home of the Canadians. Yes, because of the Western movies, people got influenced by it. It's no longer conservative as when social media wasn't a thing. Ah, I see. Yep, I was just thinking that because with the influence of the Catholic Church, that's what I kind of feel like. Because there's where the Alouettes play football down there. But we're going to go visit Jerry Park. Now, behind me is St. Helens Island. This is actually where a theme park is at. La Ronde is located there. So far, the performance is going great. This thing's running very smooth. Hope I don't jinx it, though. Montreal's French, you have Mont and Rio. Mont is mountain, Rio's king, I believe that is. Yeah. Montreal, yep, that's what I believe. Well, that's a shame. Jerry Park is not photogrammetried. Well, that's a real shame. Despite the fact it is in Montreal. But there's all the tennis stadiums and stuff. Oh, that's a real shame. But Olympic Stadium is photogrammetried, however. But no, Montreal's a beautiful city. It's really scenic. It's a really nice, really beautiful city. So according to my nav map, after we get to Olympic Stadium, we should be landing in runway 06 left. That's where we're going to be landing for the last leg of the trip. And there is Olympic Stadium, the absolute big O. See the incline, that structure up there? That is the incline. That's why it's the world's tallest incline structure. Right next to Olympic Stadium, it looks like to be a Major League Soccer stadium because that is home to Montreal's Major League Soccer team is located around here. So yes, Montreal's got multiple sports teams. It's just they don't have Major League Baseball, but like I said, baseball is going to eventually come back. It's going to come back eventually. Either expansion comes back to Montreal, or a team gets relocated back to Montreal. It's going to return some point. But it's great talking to you there, Brand J97. I really appreciate talking to you. I think I learned something majorly important. So we're getting to land here very soon. So I'm gonna need to lower my power, put on flaps, landing gear. Get the landing gear down. Yeah, there's a soccer field. That's home to Montreal's Major League Soccer team. It is actually Club de Foot Montreal. CF Montreal is their Major League Soccer club. They play at Saputo Stadium. And that was it was opened back in 2008. Right next to Olympic Stadium. Okay, we're about to land. So, terms of raid targets. There's I think I know. I think I know who to pick. What's the million Philippine sports? I believe it's basketball that's the most popular. Actually, the Philippines' most popular sport is actually basketball. I believe. I believe it's basketball. I know football and Saburo are other sports, but I think the Philippines is basketball. I believe that's the case. Philippines is kind of a weird case, like Lithuania, that basketball is actually their most popular sport. And I landed! Woohoo! So that's the end of one of the journeys. Whoa. Turn off. And Fertile is down. Nicely done. And Druid Seuss is down. Awesome job, guys. So I appreciate and I believe that's everyone. Yep, I wanted to thank everyone here. Great job, guys. That was an incredibly successful landing. So next week we will be heading to the Motor City. Detroit, Michigan will be next. I think I've already said it earlier. But Detroit, Michigan being the iconic home of the Motor City and the Tigers. The local team of Colonel Fork. So we'll be paying his team a visit today on there. But I think I know who I think I could stream. And I think we're gonna help a smaller YouTuber, a Twitch streamer, and a good friend of mine. I think we should be visiting Airlock Dock. I think we're gonna give him a bit of a raid. I think that would be really nice for us to give him some support. I think that would be great. So until then, I want to see you guys later and see you next week at 1900 Zulu. Take care, guys.